Presenting a rave from Jonathan Dodd. And it's Jonathan Dodd here, Research Director at Ipsos, 20-year research veteran, Fellow of the Research Association, and in a grumpy mood. And it's when I'm in a grumpy mood that my kids sometimes call me a GOM, and it stands for Grumpy Old Man. I'm not really at heart, but I do get grumpy and start thinking about writing letters to the editor sometimes, and in this case, a video presentation that hopefully gets you thinking. It won't take long, and it's about something that really makes me very grumpy. What is it? Crap research. I can happily debate sex, politics and religion any day, but rubbish research incenses me. And unfortunately I see a fair bit of rubbish research, because I get sent a lot of screenshots, Facebook messages, emails from friends and family saying get a load of this, with yet another dismal example of poor work. In no particular order, the research crimes that I'm seeing far too often. But at least in identifying problems, we can certainly try to overcome them, and I have a few ideas I'll discuss at the end. 6 of the best, or should I say 6 of the worst. Number 1, the oversampled panellist. Now, I'm on a panel that I swear must have 3 people on it. I get asked to participate so often. Well, you know, no big deal, although it's a bit of a worry. Good panels are big panels. But every few weeks or so comes the omnibus, which always includes the same brand awareness, usage, consideration and image questions for a certain category. Through the prompts, I've learned about 5 minor brands I didn't know of before, and having this brand list presented to me so regularly should obviously change my answers. And unfortunately, the research company will resultantly be reporting a slow and steady increase in awareness for these minor brands. And what's worse is that the researchers in charge of this questionnaire are aware of this too. They say in their question preamble that some of these questions will be the same as the ones you've answered before. So yes, they actually know that the same people are getting the same questions and don't question the impact this is having on their data. The mind boggles. Number 2, the rubbish sampling. I've talked about that before in number 1, there's a bit of poor sample management there, but consider this. A client of mine has long commissioned a big annual survey of New Zealanders using a different research company from my own. So I've seen some of their stuff through the client. It's supposed to be a representative sample, and it's a big catty job. So I was shown the questionnaire and my alarms went off. They're interviewing whoever answers the phone. Yeah. Whoever just answers the phone, and so you know what happens there. They get a whole lot of older people and a truckload more women. 80% of the respondents had been weighted, and some by enormous weights. Appalling sample quality. Really embarrassing bad stuff. Number 3, forcing responses. Now, I want you to think for a moment about the Tralala widget. I want you to rate the Tralala widget. Oh, so you've never heard of the Tralala widget? Well, tough, answer the questions. And you're thinking, well, how can I do that? And this is what many surveys actually ask people to do on an ongoing basis, and it really annoys respondents and gives you compromised data. Being forced to rank brands is just where research enters the dice throwing zone. No, sorry, actually dice throwing has predictable odds. Number 4, massive question grids. This is where stepping into the respondent's shoes can really help you become a better researcher. You know that grid of 10 brands by 25 attributes? That's actually 250 radio buttons to consider. You can just imagine respondents' eyes glazing over when they see a screen full of this and they think, oh no. There are ways around this. Number 5, not accounting for more possibilities. No single person can predict all the possible situations a respondent may be in, but it's not too hard to predict most of them. This is where developing a questionnaire works so well as a team effort. Nothing beats having a person with a different perspective read things over so they can say, what about such and such? What would they select? And then working out a few other options in your answer set. When you force people to select stuff that they don't quite agree with, well then you're actually getting compromised responses. You're not getting the truth. Number 6, stupid answer scales. Now, I was recently served an online questionnaire about a hotel I had stayed at, and the survey was managed by a major international online bookings website. And they gave me a range of factors to rate on a 5-point bipolar Likert scale. Pretty simple stuff. Now, the first factor was dining facilities, which obviously not all guests will have used, and they knew that. Good on them. So, in anticipating this, the instructions read, if you do not use the dining facilities, just select the middle option. Now, problem there, hopefully I don't have to point it out. Fixing the broken stuff. What do we do to improve this situation? And let's start with the hopeful assumption that nobody consciously intends to conduct poor quality work. I've met a lot of market researchers, and I think we're a pretty bloody good bunch of people. We don't intentionally do poor work. And examples such as these discussed here arise just from ignorance. One source of this kind of ignorance, I think, can be identified as the very low criteria required to sell market research services. There are actually none. There's nothing to stop an illiterate, innumerate wannabe setting himself up as a market researcher and charging for the services. Anybody can do it, it's true. And although the Research Association has a code of practice, it's pretty much unenforceable. And as well as that, the vast bulk of SMR's rules and guidelines concern themselves more with the rights of respondents than the rights of clients to get quality research in the first place. And remember, you don't actually have to be a member of the Research Association to do market research. The other cause I've identified is the on-the-job nature of most research training. Now, different companies will have their own training practices, but I suspect most of these are concerned with specific techniques. A few of the problems cited would have actually been identified and avoided through this kind of a training. And good mentors and managers will ensure newer staff to coach out of these mistakes, but clearly there remains work to be done. And if these sorts of problems aren't being picked up by some people, they're just going to keep on doing them, and when they get a bit older and they start training younger people, they'll repeat the problem. What to do about it? I think the answer relies in better Researcher 101 education. I think it should be conducted more formally and systematically by companies, but also by the likes of the Research Association. Yes, it's true, new members of the Research Association have to attend a seminar, but from my experience, this is still largely focused on the Code of Conduct. And while events such as the Training Tuesdays and the conferences are very welcome, and I think they're pretty awesome really, these are valuable ways to keep abreast of new developments, and sight should not be lost of the more pedestrian yet arguably more important parts of our service delivery. To use a building metaphor, our industry is now so focused on fitting out the latest interactive home theatre with all the widgets, we've actually failed to notice the weakening foundations. More needs to be done to address the basics, by the Research Association and by its researchers. And that means you and me.